Hi everybody. Okay. So I was about to start talking about what this video is gonna be about. Ghosts. First of all, I just want to say, if you don't believe in ghosts, totally fine. Look at this as entertainment. But I do believe in ghosts. I have believed in them since I was a kid. So, because that's when I first started having experiences. So, I just wanted to do my makeup. I'm doing ghost themed, got my ghost shirt. I just wanted to tell my stories. I'm not going to tell them all. I have a lot, but I thought I would start with the first one I remember. I'm just going into, I have a singles palette that has mattes and satins. So this is the shade Pretty Please, I think. Yeah, Pretty Please from ColourPop. I've had this shadow since 2019, 2018. So I'm trying to hit pan. I used to use this every day and I barely made a dent. But yeah, I'm just gonna keep the eyes pretty simple. I think I want to do a white shimmer with a pink inner corner. And I want to do baby pink blush. Okay, so sorry. I keep finding out that a bunch of my friends are hateful, racist, homophobic, transphobic. And it hurts. I just don't understand how you can hate people just because they are different than you. And I'm sorry, these people are just trying to survive in a hateful, cruel world. Obviously there's gonna be shitty people in every group. That's just a fact. But stop judging an entire community based on the actions of a small few. But anyway, that's not what this video is about. So my first time I saw a ghost or a spirit, I was with my cousin. He's my age, and I was with my aunt. Now I fucking hate this aunt now. I have serious bad blood with this aunt, but at the time she was one of my favorite aunts. So I have an uncle, a great uncle, who he lives on an old farm and there's no animals. Occasionally has a dog or chickens or whatever, but there's no animals. There were never animals when I was a kid. But behind the farm there is an old railroad bed. I'm from the town Kentucky or Hopkinton, New Hampshire. There's this old railroad bed and it goes past the Kentucky River. There's no train tracks or anything, but it's just a trail along the river. And when you get to the end, it opens up to this, it's not really a field. I mean, there is a field, but that's not what I'm talking about. I think I want to do a little bit of pink here. There's a field sort of thing, but there's a bunch of trees, and a lot of them are birch trees, really skinny trees. I must have been my daughter's age, maybe a little older. When I was little, I didn't live in America. I lived in, I must have already had moved back to America. But when I was younger, I had lived in Singapore, I lived in England, and then we came back to the States. Okay, so it's me, my aunt, and my cousin. So we're walking down the path, and we're getting to the point where, here's the path, and then it opens up to this space. And my cousin and I looked right ahead in the distance. There was a tree, and then there was a little boy. And in my memory, it changes. I think it was a red or yellow jacket. I believe it was red. But it was just this little boy. And this is private property. Sometimes people would trespass, but there was no one else, and the path is very long. And this kid looked even younger than us. He looked like he was maybe 5 or 6. And he had a red jacket. He had an old newsboy cap. I'll put a picture of the cap that I saw. And I looked at my cousin. I'm like, do you see him? And he's like, yeah, I see him. And then we tried to point him out to my aunt, and she didn't see him. And we're like, he's right there. And then we see this little boy step behind a birch tree that was like probably like this skin. Like, there's no way a little boy could hide behind it, but he stepped behind it and just vanished. And we went over there and we were looking, and there's no little boy. And my cousin and I both saw it. I don't know if he would still remember. I'm not really close with him anymore, but I definitely want to know if he remembers that, because like, that's how I was like, okay, I know I'm not like hallucinating, because my cousin sees it too. So yeah, that happened. You know what? Maybe I'll do like a halo sort of thing. The pink. I want this look to be like really fun. But yeah, that was the first time I was like, I think I just saw a ghost. And I remember, I'm taking this white satin. I'm not gonna leave it just as the white satin. This is just from Mud Cosmetics, which is the company that certified me in makeup artistry. So that happened. Pretty sure that's the one that happened first. And I believe at the time I was living in Connecticut with my family, because we would visit New Hampshire, but like I went from living in Singapore to the United Kingdom, and we came back to live in Connecticut because my dad worked in New York. And my parents ended up splitting up, but before that happened, we lived in this house in Connecticut that was absolutely haunted. And you know, I had like friends that like hated me for this, because like they didn't believe me and they were scared, and maybe I shouldn't have been telling other kids about all of this. But so what happened was, one of my sisters and I believe it was my sister Sophie and I, we shared a bedroom. And it was just, I don't know why we had my dad paint it, but it was like bright lime green walls opposing like dark blue walls. It's just not cute. But that's what we wanted, so he did it. But me and my sister Sophie, we slept in the same room. And I haven't fixed this broken highlighter yet, but I have to do that. So I'm going to use Lunar Veil from Touch of Glam, which is a highlighter, as my eyeshadow. And okay, so as I'm doing this, I'll just tell you. So, my sister and I, we slept in the same bedroom, and my other sister, Margaret, she slept alone in a different bedroom. It was smaller, and it was right next to ours. And I remember, like, we were gonna switch rooms for some reason. Like, I was gonna go in there, and then Margaret was gonna move to the other room. So it was supposed to be my first night sleeping in this bedroom. I remember my mom was downstairs in the kitchen, and my sisters were a floor below. They were playing in our basement. I was up in the bed in this new bedroom I never slept in before, and I was reading. I could hear that my mom was downstairs, and I could hear her like constantly like yelling down to my sisters, so I knew they were downstairs. And so I'm just sitting in the bed. It's like against the wall, and then there's the doorway. And I'm just reading, and then I started to hear footsteps. So I'm like thinking somebody's coming up the stairs, and I heard them get louder and louder and closer and closer. And then they stopped, and I didn't see anybody, because the way it was, like where I was sitting in the bed, I would have seen if somebody came up, like at some point. I don't think I could quite see the top of the stairs, but like they were there. They were right outside the door. So I should have been able to see if somebody came up. I remember I got up and I looked around, and I looked through the rooms that were upstairs, and no one was there. So I was like, that's weird. So then I went and sat back down and started reading again. I could hear my mom like frying something downstairs, and I'm just sitting there reading. And then I looked up and I swear on everything this fucking happened, and I'm not fucking crazy, okay? There was a shadow figure, okay? There's a little ghost, okay? Or this can be the doorway right here. And I just see it peeked at me. Like, it fucking peeked at me. And I never ended up sleeping in that bedroom. I couldn't. I was too afraid. So that happened. And I was like, there's a ghost. Like, I remember freaking out. I started yelling for my mom, and she came up, and I was like, I saw a ghost. And of course, anytime I've ever talked about ghost stuff, like, nobody believed me ever. So yeah, I learned to like start keeping it to myself. I'm gonna quickly do my liner and my lashes, and then I'll come back and I'll tell you more stories. I'm just gonna quickly line over lash band a little bit. But yeah, sorry to my sister Margaret for not taking the haunted room. I kind of wish I took it now because I'm not afraid of ghosts anymore. Like, I've had a lot of interactions. Oh, I'm gonna use my House Labs foundation today. I use the shade 050 Fair Cool. Okay, so there was another spirit that I interacted with when I lived in Connecticut, and at the time I had this friend. She was my closest friend when I lived there, and we stopped being friends because like when I moved, her mom told my mom that like me moving was selfish, as if it was like my choice. So yeah, we stopped being friends once I moved. But like for a couple of years I hung out with this girl all the time, and I remember we did a Ouija board. And I learned about Ouija boards from one of my cousins, and she was terrified of them, but like we tried it one time and it was a whole thing, but I won't get into that. But like this cousin, her mom always had like a lot of ghost stories. So I would always ask people for their ghost stories because I loved hearing them. Always been intrigued because, I mean, I've always liked being scared. Me and my friend, we did the Ouija board. We asked what its name was, and it said Tilly. We kept getting the name Tilly. I don't remember much about the Ouija board session. I remember I closed it with goodbye, like you're supposed to. And I just remember being like, I think I asked, like, are you the ghost that lives here? But I didn't get a straight answer. And so I assumed that Tilly, and keep in mind, neither me or my friend had ever heard the name Tilly before. I didn't even know it was a real name. Until I looked it up and saw it could be short for like Matilda or whatever. But yeah, like it literally said Tilly. And I remember doing it a couple times by myself, which it's funny because now I have a really hard time using one. My belief is when you're younger, your brain doesn't tend to like filter out things like spirits or whatever entities the way that an adult brain does. As a society, we've been like kind of dulled down to spirits because we're always on our phones, we're always busy, we're always working, we're always doing stuff. When you're a kid, I think it's easy for ghosts because one, kids have wild imagination, so people like to say that's what they're seeing. It's just all of their imagination. It didn't happen. They're not real. And like, you know, I understand believing that they're not real if you haven't had an experience, but like once you do, I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't times where that could be a fabrication of your mind. But yeah, like, I think when you're a kid, you're more susceptible. But yeah, so anyway, I remember like being like, okay, now my ghost in the house has a name. And I remember things would happen at night. Like I would hear footsteps, I would hear the water turn on, and everyone would be sleeping. And then once in a while, I would see like a shadowy figure like downstairs. Or what I never saw it upstairs again, but it was like usually downstairs. Like if I went to go get water at night, I would see it and then I would run back up the stairs as fast as I could because it freaked me out. But yeah, like when we moved back to New Hampshire after my parents got divorced, I didn't have as many things happen. But like the cousin who first told me about the Ouija boards, like her house is absolutely haunted. And my aunt, when she was pregnant with my youngest cousin in that family, his older brother had like remote control car, and she'd be home all alone in this big house, and she'd be trying to like just relax because she's pregnant, and the remote control car would just start like zooming around, which is just scary. And then she would go find the remote control and it would be like have no batteries or something. So I've always believed, and like when I would sleep at this house, I would hear like tapping on the walls and all this stuff. Like we would hear footsteps, we would hear like your name sometimes would be called. Like I remember hearing Ani, because my nickname is Ani for my family and like some of my friends. So yeah, I remember just like being like, okay, that's creepy. And like I always loved sleeping there because it was so scary. But yeah. So I also remember in New Hampshire as a kid, like my Nana's house wasn't as haunted. And like, so my Nana lives in an old house, and then down the street is that old farmhouse where my uncle lives. And I've had things happen in both those places. Like, and some of my cousins have too. Like the sink turning on was a huge thing at my uncle's house. And when I would sleep in my Nana's back room, sometimes we would hear like whispers and just stuff like that. Like nothing too crazy, but I remember, oh yeah, I'd used my Fenty Amber Contour. I use this every day. I've been through so many of them. I'm just going to use my Rare Beauty bronzer stick in Brightside. So, I remember I kind of stopped having experiences when I got a little bit older. But they would happen sometimes, especially when I was very depressed. I feel like when you're depressed, you kind of, whether you know it or not, you can like open yourself up to different entities, especially like lower vibrational beings. Like, I'm not really saying demons, but like more negative types of entities. And so, I don't think I ever had anything happen in my house in Hopkinton, but I had this friend in high school, and she lived, I remember when I first was born, my family lived in the oldest house in Hopkinton. Or maybe it was the second oldest house, and I can't remember which one's which. But my friend, my best friend, like junior and senior year, she lived in like the second or the first oldest house, whichever one my old house wasn't. And this one was definitely haunted. Like, I would sleep over, we'd like get fucked up, drink, smoke, whatever, and like there was an attic directly above my friend's bed, and it was cool. It was like sometimes we would go smoke weed up there. Like it had a ladder that pulled out, and then you could go up to this small space. And I remember sleeping at night, and at this point I'd already been told the place is haunted, and I was like, okay, we'll see if anything happens, because I love that sort of thing. But I remember like trying to sleep one night, and I think I'd only smoked weed. My friend was asleep, her mom was asleep, and she did have dogs like downstairs, but yeah, like we didn't have any of like, and nobody was up there, and there was absolutely nobody in the attic. Like it was just above us. I remember hearing like this creepy scraping sound, and then when I would look up, it would stop. And then I would try to go back to sleep, and I would hear the scraping, and it was like it was just a horrible noise. I remember, I think I got up to go to the bathroom, and then I just felt this like cold whoosh past me, and I heard like, it was so freaky. That was one of my like more freaky ones. So yeah, she doesn't live there anymore, but I would love to be able to like investigate that place. And so I do have like a ton that I'm leaving out here, by the way, but I do want, I'm going to do like a really pretty light pink blush today. I'm going to use this pastel mochi, which is right here, lighter one. Yeah. Okay, so more recent stories, like when I was pregnant and I was in rehab. Now, rehab's like, now I kind of don't like when people say, oh, well, nobody's died in that house, there's no way it's haunted. It's like, okay, This land has been here a very long time. You have no idea who has lived here before there was a house, like, or whatever, but like this rehab facility, pretty sure it used to be like a halfway house or like a motel or something. But this was the last time I went to rehab, by the way, and I was very pregnant. This was back in 2018. And I was there for about a month, and at some points I had no roommate. And this only happened when I had no roommate. But basically, I'd be trying to go to sleep. You know, I was in the detox unit at the time. And in rehabs, sometimes people die. Like, people might have medical emergencies due to their addiction or other underlying issues that have been neglected because of their using. So, and I know for a fact that people have passed away in this rehab, which is really sad, or at least had like some sort of medical episode. And I don't know if it was someone that died there, like in the rehab while it was a rehab, but one night, you know, I was trying to go to sleep. It was really hard to sleep because I was very pregnant, and I was also detoxing. So I'd already gotten through the worst of the withdrawals. I was on medication, my Suboxone, which I still take. So I finally starting to stabilize and feel more like myself, but I was having trouble sleeping because I had very restless legs. I would still get hot and cold flashes and just was very uncomfortable. And one night I'm just kind of laying there. I remember I was talking to my daughter because I would talk to her and be like, I love you so much. Like, we're going to get through this, whatever. Even if I didn't believe it. Because I was like, we have to get through this. And I remember looking up and hearing a woman singing. And I looked over and it was just this light figure, like a very bright figure. And she had blonde hair. She was in a gown, like a white gown. And almost like for a second, it felt like too bright to look at her. And then I looked over and she was looking like first when I looked at her, she's kind of like looking away, singing. And I looked away, I looked back and she was just like staring at me. And then she was gone. And it was so freaky. Like, it was so freaky. I remember being like, don't worry, Havana, we're going to be okay. But yeah, that was like a freaky one too. And then I didn't see her again, but there would be times where I would hear the singing at night, very late at night, usually like 2 or 3 in the morning. But yeah, definitely interesting. And so since then, because there were many years where I was a total atheist. I didn't believe that there was anything. I still believed in ghosts, but I didn't believe in like God or any other gods. But now I've just had too many like spiritual experiences to not believe that there is so much more that we could never possibly understand, you know? So I wouldn't call myself an atheist anymore. I believe in multiple deities. Like, I guess I'm a pagan. But I have always thought, even if it's not real, it's still real to people. So, and whether we're the ones that make it happen, that, like, some people think, like, when you form a collective consciousness of, you know, a belief, it can be so strong that it becomes something called an egregore. So maybe Jesus and God is an egregore. It's just all been formed by the collective consciousness. I don't think I believe that. Not that I don't believe that could happen. I am very open to different possibilities, but I know for a fact in my heart and soul that I believe in something higher. For a long time, I felt like that was just the universe and Mother Nature, but now I feel like there's more, and you'll have to agree with me. So when I was 18, my friend passed away. She was killed in a very horrible way, and it took me a long time to recover from it. Just a few months after she died, I ended up in this horrible abusive situation with somebody who got me hooked on heroin in the first place. In the period of time from when she passed away to before I got addicted to drugs, first of all, for an entire week after her death, the sky in Concord, which is where she passed away and lived, was filled with rainbows. There'd be double rainbows or just regular rainbows, but they were there every single day. And I remember thinking that was weird because that like never happens. And she's always found ways, in my opinion, I don't want to hurt anybody or offend anybody, but I've always believed that she has found ways to reach out to me. And so one of my more recent experiences has to do with her. So my friend, she had just gotten married just a couple weeks ago, and there was Polaroid photos being taken of all the guests, like a Polaroid guest book. There's a memorial table. It had my late friend Sabrina's photo. It had another one of our late friends on the table, and there was just other loved ones from my friend and her new husband's family that they put on that table. But I remember I went over to say hello. I said, "Hi, Sabrina. I miss you so much." And I said, "I'm here with my daughter, Vanna." I was like, "I wish you could have gotten to meet her, but I tell her about you," and whatever I said. A couple minutes later, just a couple minutes after this, one of the bridesmaids, Hannah, she came up and she took photos. There was one photo of me, Nick, my husband, and our daughter, Havana. And I'll put that picture here. And then Hannah took a second photo. It's just me and Havana. You cannot tell me that is not a ghost. You cannot tell me that is not a spirit visiting. And so I'd like to believe that was Sabrina saying hello, because she always finds a way. Like, I have had, like, for example, it was like the 5-year memorial of her death, and my friends and I went to a park. And I just remember seeing like this special bird. I'd never seen anything like it. It was black, but it had like pink and orange on it. It was beautiful. And it just kept following me as I was leaving the memorial gathering. And then also, after after she had initially passed away, it happened in my car. So I didn't have my car anymore because it was now a crime scene. So I ended up walking from Concord to Bow, which was like a few hours of a walk. And there was just an owl following me. And it was very comforting. Like, I remember just crying and looking at it. And I just knew, like, something is telling me either it's her and she's telling me she's okay, or someone is telling her for me that she's okay. So I've always thought, I've always just believed in more, but I couldn't really figure out what. But I know for a fact that I believe in ghosts. I always have. I've had so much shit happen. But I'll tell you guys some of the more recent ones. I'm going to start drawing the ghosts, so be right back. Oh wait, I'm going to attempt to do this as quickly as I can. I'm using a little tiny bit of the white P. Louise base. I've started having experiences again. I didn't really have many over the last few years because I was going through a lot and I wasn't really opening myself up to anything. And it's not like I haven't still always had things happen, but like normally I'm like, oh, well, whatever. It's just the wind, or, the door blows open even though it's locked. I'm like, okay, maybe I just forgot to lock it. But no, lately I've had some things happen. So the first one, this was all very recent, like within the last 2 months. So I was sleeping. Woke up. It was something like exactly 3 a.m. when I woke up. Okay. And I really had to pee. But like ever since I had my daughter, like if I was on an airplane, for example, a really long airplane ride, I could just sit at the window seat and I wouldn't get up once. Now I could never do that. But like I remember just being like, okay, well, I really have to go to the bathroom, but I just don't want to move. So I laid back down, closed my eyes, but then I felt like, at first I thought my husband was standing over me, like to the right, which he sleeps on the left side of me. So I remember being like, this is weird, because like we always have the TV going, because he always needs the TV running, and I could feel that there was a shadow like leaning over me, and it didn't feel threatening, so I assumed it was him. And then I opened my eyes because I was like, what the fuck, it's not going away, and I wanted to see if it was him. And I saw this shadow. It was like leaning over me, and then it backed away, and it went around the front of the bed. And then I looked over, I saw my husband. He's sound asleep. So I'm like, oh, okay, it wasn't him. And I remember feeling like a pressure on my leg. So I think that was initially why I woke up, because I thought maybe he, like, I don't know, end up with his arm on me and while in his sleep, which has happened before. So I remember being like, okay, and I checked the time. It was 3:02. So this all happened in 2 minutes, and I know for a fact I was awake because I saw the time had said 3 a.m. So I was like, all right. So I got up and I went to the bathroom. I didn't say anything to him because I know we had talked about whether we believed in ghosts and stuff. But this was all years ago. When we first met, we were on drugs. Like, I didn't remember if he believed or not, okay? And I assumed he didn't. Anyway, a few weeks later, we're watching a horror movie. I think it was The Exorcist. And I remember being like, do you believe in ghosts? And he's like, yeah, of course I do. I was like, okay, I need to tell you what happened. So I told him. And he was like, okay, that's freaky. I was like, yeah, it was. And then, like a few nights later, so I was once again going to the bathroom. I have 2 stories that involve my cats. So I'm going to the bathroom, and like, sometimes my husband, he's like waiting to go after me. So when that happens, first my cat Opal, she runs into the bathroom. She runs to my legs. I pet her. She runs to him. It's a whole thing. She goes back and forth. So I'm sitting there, and she came over, but then she just kind of stopped and like glared at the corner and then took off. She didn't go to him. She just took off. And I was like, okay. But then she came back and was just like staring at the corner. So I tapped like on the wall next to me, like tap, tap, trying to get her to come over to me so I could pet her. And the wall, I shit you not, guys. Like, you can think I'm fucking crazy. You can think I'm a liar. It's fine. I've been called all those things, okay? But like, the wall tapped back, and it sounded different. I tried to tap again to see if it would happen again. And I remember looking right at my husband, and he's like, was that you? And I was like, the first one was, but that second one was not me. And I kept trying to see if it would happen again, but it didn't. So I remember being like, all right, that was weird. I'm trying to get the ghost, the bottom of the ghost. It's gonna be so cute. Okay, I'm gonna use the other end. This is like a nail brush. Okay, I have to leave in like 20 minutes. But okay, so let me just grab, I have a cake liner I like to use when I draw pictures on myself. This one was funny as hell. So this is after I confirmed that Nick does also believe in ghosts. And oh, he told me a story that, so he has an older daughter. And when he was with her mother, they were together for like a decade or so. I guess they lived in this apartment with another couple. And the couple had warned them that like when they moved in, like this place is haunted. And so they're like, okay. Okay, so hopefully I got far enough away from the Coles music. But I was gonna say, and I don't know if it cut off or I just never finished that story, but basically, so when Nick was living in the house with his ex, anytime he would walk by like the couple's bedroom, if he was the only one who was home, he would hear his name being like whispered to him, like Nick, which is super creepy. So, and apparently like it was that couple's bedroom that was super haunted. So I'm gonna do a little happy ghost. Okay, this is my favorite one that I have as of late. It's not scary at all, but it was just weird. So my mom and my stepdad were away. This was only like a month ago. And my daughter was sound asleep in this room that I'm in right now. My bedroom's right next door. So my husband and I were just watching TV. We heard this really weird sound outside. And it was so strange because it sounded like very close, but also very far away. So I was like, are our neighbors like doing something? Like, what's going on? I just remember being like, okay, that's super weird. Like, and I went up first immediately. Whenever I hear weird noise or something, I immediately come and make sure my daughter's okay. She was fine. She was sleeping. I want to give the ghost like little blushy cheeks. But okay, so I'm just using that same pink from ColourPop I put on my eyes. This is called Good Manners. And that's as good as we're gonna get. But okay, so Nick and I went to go investigate. And we went downstairs. I was looking out the windows. I went outside. But it was like every time I would step outside or open the door, the sound would immediately stop. And so I'm like, what is going on? Like, this is so strange. And my dog, she was downstairs. She was sound asleep in the other room. It wasn't her. And like, it would have made more sense if she was like banging on the door outside, like someone forgot to let her in. But no, she's sound asleep. And I remember she looked up at me, but she didn't move. And so I'm thinking, like, where's the cat? Like, my other cat, Scout, he goes outside, which I really don't like, but I can't change it. So, I'm like, where is he? And this cat, like, he will wait at either the front door or the porch doors. Like, he will wait until somebody lets him in. He's never, like, tried to jump up or scratch, or he's never made noise. Like, he'll sit there for hours and wait for someone to show up and let him in. What happened was, I looked down. So there's this back porch we have, and the grill's there. You go down the stairs, then you're at the pool. And he rarely goes to this door, but like when he does, he'll just sit there. Like he was just sitting there. And so I immediately went over, I let him in. And then as I opened the door, I heard the sound outside just stop. He was gone. So my theory is that maybe there's, because I do believe that there are like protector spirits of the land and the home and things like that. And I do have like a connection with my house spirit. So I don't want to talk about him. I believe he's a man spirit or a masculine energy. I think it might have been him telling me, bitch, let your cat in. Like he wants to come in. Where are you? Because it only, like as soon as I, if I opened the door at the wrong side of the house, it would stop, but then start up as soon as the door was shut. Like I even went outside and before I found my cat and like walked around and it was just nothing. There was no sound. And then when we came back upstairs, it was gone. So my belief is that something was telling me, hey, your cat wants to come inside, so let him in. It was so funny. And so that's like my favorite one as of late. I'm trying to finish my eyes. Oh, and I will tell you a story that this one, I could have just been seeing things. I was very young. This was when I was on the way, like moving back from Connecticut to New Hampshire. I was a kid. I was in 4th grade. Like it was about like a 3 or 4 hour drive. I'm just putting on. This is the Revolution Baked Bronzer. The Bronzer Reloaded. I have the shade Holiday Romance. It's very pretty. This is my second one because my first one broke, but I got very close to hitting pan on it in the past. Just a nice glowy bronzer. But anyway, so like I remember looking out the window while we were driving, and I still don't know. I'm not 100% convinced that this was a ghost. It could have just been someone who was like really fucking short and couldn't see over the steering wheel. But I remember looking and seeing a car that was driving past us, and I did not see a driver. And we were next to it for a while, and I was looking. I did not see a driver. And I just remember being like freaked out because I do believe like there are parts of the road, especially like more like long traveled roads, like dark highways at night or back roads in the country. I just believe that there are some areas that are more full of spiritual activity than others. But like I remember being like, what the fuck? What is going on? Like there's no driver. So anyway, when I first moved back to New Hampshire, I had this one friend, and I had met her when I was younger because her dad and my mom went to school together and they were friends. So I didn't really remember her very much, but I immediately like started hanging out with her. And then there was another girl that we were friends with. I told them this story, which I shouldn't have, because I mean, looking back, I'm not like 100% convinced it was really what happened, but they did not believe me. And I have no hard feelings towards either of these girls. If they happen, I don't think they'll see this, but like if they happen to see this, I have no hard feelings. But like one day on the playground, they came up to me and they were like, we're not going to be your friend anymore because we don't believe your stories. I just remember being really hurt, and then I actually ended up finding a new friend group that same day because they said they would believe me. I don't think I told them, but it meant a lot because I was just like so crushed. Like I was like, okay, I don't have any friends anymore. Like I just moved back here. I don't know anyone. And now the one person I did know, like, she doesn't want to be my friend anymore because of my ghost story. So I was like, okay. And that's about the time when I realized, like, if you talk about this stuff, people aren't going to believe you. And so for a long time, I just wouldn't share when things would happen. I wouldn't tell my parents. If I did tell them, I wasn't believed. People have always not really believed me with a lot of things, and that's fine. Like, I don't care anymore. You absolutely don't have to believe me. Like, I know it's hard to believe in this stuff, especially when you haven't been through it. You know, to stop being friends with me, I was like, oh, that sucks. But yeah, luckily I ended up with some great friends in this school. So I really appreciate those guys. They know who they are. But yeah, I was very hurt by that. And that's when I realized, like, I can't really tell people this. So I've never really talked about it online. I mean, I've probably, like, written about it on Reddit or whatever, but yeah. I just thought it'd be fun to share some of these stories because it's almost Halloween. I love spooky things. So yeah, what? I think I'm gonna do a silver inner corner. Yeah, that's perfect. We'll put some up here. But yeah, like, it's totally fine if you don't believe. I completely understand. If none of this stuff had happened to me, I probably wouldn't believe in ghosts or spirits or entities like this either. But I do. I've had a lot of stories. I could honestly make like 5 parts to this video. But I will say, if you are into ghost stuff and you like podcasts, I highly recommend the podcast 2 Girls, 1 Ghost. I really love this podcast, and both women are from New England. One of them, Corinne, actually used to live in Guilford, New Hampshire, which is where my dad and his family lived when they lived here. And yeah, so highly recommend that podcast. They say it's the most haunted podcast in America. And there are some crazy stories on there. I was actually listening to it before making this, but I should probably send in some of my submissions. I'm trying to think if I have any more. Because I've only been, like, physically touched by a spirit or whatever, like, the other day, well, like a month or 2 ago, when I felt something touch me. Oh, I will say, lately, I have had 3 sleep paralysis experiences just in the last few months. I've never had it, but I've always been like a lucid dreamer, and especially after I lost my friend and I went through a lot of trauma that year, even after she passed away, I still sometimes get them. I get like PTSD nightmares, and I had to really try to teach myself to recognize when I'm dreaming as often as I could. So I have experienced lucid dreaming. I can't do it every time I go to sleep, but like way more often than I used to, because I used to do it by accident before I really like taught myself to do it. By the way, if you get PTSD nightmares, I highly recommend just keeping a dream journal so you can kind of start remembering your dreams and recognizing when you're in them. Obviously, talk to a psychiatrist before you do that. Helped me a lot. But anyway, so one of the times where I had sleep paralysis, I couldn't move. I opened my eyes. I could see the TV was still on. And it felt like my husband, like I literally thought he was like pressing really hard down on my legs. Like I was like, what the hell? And I saw this like dark energy around my legs. And the only way I could get myself to wake up, because normally if I'm lucid dreaming and I want to wake up, I just open my eyes, like force them open. And it usually works, but I couldn't do it here. So I had to try to scream to wake myself up. I see my husband's just watching TV. He's not doing anything. And so I'm like, what the fuck was that? Like, that was super creepy. So yeah. And then I had a couple other times. I just had one a couple nights ago. It was super weird. And I'm not saying, like, I don't necessarily know if, like, sleep paralysis is connected to entities or whatever. I think it can be. I've never been able to astral project, but I'm working on it. I really want to be able to do that. Like, people just, they tell you about the sleep paralysis demon. And I felt like I experienced that. But the other night, during my sleep paralysis, I was, like, walking down some stairs. Or more like the stairs were, like, whooshing past me because I couldn't move. And then I looked, I saw, they were, like, glitchy, like, pixelated, freaking different colored women-looking entities. But their faces were, like, melting off, and I just got such an intense bad vibe, and I was like, I need to get out of here. So I had to try to scream, and I feel bad because my husband's, like, literally noticed every single time. It's like, when I'm lucid dreaming, he's usually asleep, but, like, when this has happened, it's, like, right as I'm falling asleep. And I don't know, something about them just gave me a really bad vibe, but I don't think that was, like, a ghost or anything. I just think that was just my brain, probably, but yeah, let me just put on a lip. I'm gonna scrape a little bit of it because I'm gonna want to use this in my kit. But this is It Fussy from Fenty. Yeah, it's pretty.
Hey friends, okay, so I recorded this video a couple months ago now. It's now December 3rd, and I have had things happen ever since I recorded this, so I thought I might share. First of all, the presence in my house has made itself known to my daughter only when I've been with her, so at least there's that, but I have told it, like, listen, if you scare my daughter, like, you are getting banished. But I haven't done any, like, banishing rituals or anything with it yet. But I'm definitely kind of like, oh, why are we messing with my child, you know? So anyway, wasn't with Havana, but I heard footsteps, like, literally downstairs when I was home alone last week, and nobody was here. I went downstairs because I'm like, I already had a feeling because I was pretty positive my dog was outside, and it didn't sound like animal footsteps or like her footsteps. It sounded like a human. So I kept hearing footsteps, and I was like, oh, okay, interesting. So yeah, I went downstairs. My dog, Ice, Miss Icy, she was outside. Nowhere to be found, nowhere in the house. So that was interesting. And then there was another time where I was with my daughter. I was actually sitting on this exact couch. The TV's right there. And there is a little kitty cat right here. So if you guys hear purring, that is why. But okay, so basically we're just sitting on the couch. We're watching a movie, or I don't even know. We were watching something. And a dog toy just started, like, barking. Like, it was a kid's toy, but it was like a dog. It started barking out of nowhere, and we had been sitting just chilling for a while, so it's fucking weird. The toy just started barking, and I was like, okay. And yeah, there was no batteries in that toy. But okay. And then another time, my daughter and we were just, like, hanging out upstairs, and I think we were home alone because she didn't have school. Yeah, she didn't have school, and I was home. So she got to hang out with me. Oh yeah, this was on my birthday. So she got to hang out with me, and we started hearing, like, I don't know, a weird ass noise. It's always, like, a weird noise, and I don't even know. It was just very strange. And then I have cat balls that light up, which they always die very quickly because I think they go off when I'm not home. But, like, the cat balls, like, basically, if you're not, like, stomping around or, like, jumping on the ground and, like, making a bunch of movement on the ground and like where it shakes the bookshelf they were on. Like, we were just sitting. I was getting ready. The cat balls started going off. So nobody had touched them. Nobody had done anything. So yeah, I started kind of laughing because I don't want my daughter to be scared. But yeah, so that happened. And I was like, okay, hi, ghost. And the reason I told Havana about, like, because I told her like a year ago that I believe in ghosts when she asked me. And at first she was a little scared, but I told her because I didn't want her to be freaked out if she started seeing them the way I did when I was little, like her age. So yeah, she doesn't seem to be afraid of them. I don't believe there's anything dark in this house. I really don't. But if I ever do get that vibe, it's gonna be gone. I will take care of it. But yeah, I do believe there is a protector spirit, whether it's in the house or on the land or something. And I don't know, I feel like the house spirit kind of like likes to make himself known. And then there's another part of the house where, like, technically it's my daughter's room, though she doesn't sleep in there. Whenever I go in there or into the basement, I can feel like the energy shift. And there's been times where I've seen like shadowy figures, which hasn't happened too often, but just the other day I did see shadowy figure like looming on the stairs. And so I was like, hello. I said hi to it. And it kind of just like stood there for a second, but then it disappeared. So yeah, those are some things that have happened since I recorded this. I know there's other things that I'm forgetting, but yeah, those are like some of the more recent things. And once again, I know I'm not fucking crazy because my husband has also heard it too.
But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I just ask, if you don't believe, you don't need to like call me crazy or stupid or whatever you want to say, because that's just like, dude, I've heard enough of that in my life, and I'm sorry, I don't care if you don't believe me. You don't have to. If this is all just like entertainment for you, that's totally fine. But you don't need to be rude just because somebody believes something different than you. And that's what I wish the world would fucking realize. People who believe other things, they've just lived different lives than you. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, anyway, if you believe in ghosts or you have any stories, I'd love to hear about them. Yeah, this was fun to make. I hope people aren't too fucking mean. Like, trust me, there's nothing you can say to me that hasn't already been said, and it's not gonna hurt my feelings, so it's just gonna make me laugh at you. So, I mean, go off if you want. But like, I'm sorry, I literally have been through so much shit in my life, I don't fucking care. I don't care what anybody except my baby girl, my husband, and my friends think of me. Like, I literally don't care. Yeah. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. Yeah, I'm a haunted ass bitch. So I have been haunted since I was a child, but not like, it's been like on and off hauntings. All right, thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful day, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your spooky season. Bye.